Okay, so itinerary-wise,
As far as what we did?
yeah,
Yeah, so, you have so many choices, of course. And we kind of knew the Porto Cervo, as beautiful as it is, the nightlife thing isn't really our scene quite so much as the quaint villages and the beautiful little hidden coves. So we knew that. So what we did, day one, is I think it kind of amazed us how close everything was. So,
Absolutely.
we're pulling out of Canaggione and we're like, wow, there's Caprera. And I had thought it was a lot further, I think, in my head than it was in reality. So we went and took a look at Calaportese.
love that place.
It ended up being one of my favorites. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I feel like it was very easy. We got up there to look at it. We saw that Calicoticho was a little bit of a mess. a lot of boats.
Yeah, it's a small spot, but Portese is pretty wide, Easy on your end. You're there driving the boat, Skip. I'm up there. I'm leaned over the bow because there's no pennant. So, trying to feed our lines through two holes on the mooring ball. We're just lucky we had a 30-foot vessel and didn't have more freeboard. And I would have been. You would need to. You need to have the GoPro catching me falling in for sure. But I agree. No, and the beach bar there really. Delicious
great.
Food, yeah.
Yeah, it was so nice. I remember we were kind of intimidated, like, okay, we just swam here. Are we going to be okay to come and sit at this really nice place? And it was kind of cool. And we ended up checking out both the more restaurant, area that's covered, and then the beach umbrellas and tables. And I thought both were incredibly nice.
Two different menus, but really the food was outstanding.
And it wasn't snooty. And I think you see a place like that, and it certainly could go that way.
Right.
But they were so nice and just welcoming and friendly.
Yeah. And, on the back side of the restaurant, there's some more beaches. So you've got Calaportese, but across the road where people can drive there's also even more beaches. So
I saw a little rock that said, while you were flying the drone and I went wandering, there's a little rock that says I due mari, and you can see why.
Two C's,
the two C's, and there really are, two sides.
Yeah, really beautiful. Definitely very pretty clear water. Yeah,
incredible water. So we, did a little drive-by again, which I feel like we did a few drive-bys by Calicoticho before we got up the nerve to actually go in there and try it.
I in hindsight, Calaportese would be one on a night one coming out of Canaggione that would be pretty special to stay at. You could have that beach bar. You probably do dinner there.
For sure.
And then just the water's gorgeous. You've got space. And if all the mooring balls were full, you could always drop an anchor. I think that's allowed there. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm wrong. But
certainly seemed to be.
Yeah, everybody else was doing it too. So, but yeah, we didn't. We moved ahead.
We did move ahead, and perhaps that was our lesson, as we should have foreseen maybe the winds the next day, it ended up being fun and fine, but your first day out, I think what you said is absolutely spot on with staying, Calaportese. It's beautiful. You have a mooring ball if you want it. You're at least, very well protected. We went down to Cala di Volpe, which was stunning, right?
Yeah,
Stunningly
really
beautiful.
A lot of big boats too.
Lots of super yachts.
Yeah.
But
we got some good sailing getting there. So.
We did. The winds were perfect that afternoon. I feel like 10, 12 knots, just a really easy.
Then they picked up overnight.
So, it's always, for anybody who has sailed, maybe forever, you don't worry anymore. But when you're, several years, you drop the anchor and you sit there and you watch and you watch and you watch.
Take a transit.
And then the wind picks up inevitably, and then you watch and you watch. So that was our night. But our anchor held perfectly. So did everyone else's. It was 25 knots of wind that night?
Yeah. I think we got there before peak season because there's supposed to be a little bit more going on the beach, based on the Italian Waters pilot. But still, it was a good night to cook on board.
That was our Cooler Jonas night.
Yeah, you did a heck of a job.
And you with the Malaredos.
Yeah. But good night there. Next day, the winds did not let up.
The winds didn't quite do what we expected, so we called in the morning to Caligavetta at La Maddalena with great plans of sailing up there and, spending the night in the town. And then the winds that were perfect in the morning at 13, 15 knots. Yep. Fantastic. Then they suddenly became 20, 2,
Yeah.
3, and the wind was right in our bow.
Yeah,
right
we
where we needed to go.
We went from reef 1 to reef 2 to turning on the motor and moving about 1.25 knots
Straight into the waves.
into the
and
wind. It was
Yeah.
it was
So
definitely
we
an
bailed on the
experience.
Maddalena.
Headed back to
postponed that one.
Canagone because it's a little closer.
Yep. Which ended up being
Had a
really
great
nice.
time, yeah.
It was. I'm not sorry, but
Yeah.
I think in retrospect on that, I'm glad we did what we did because it was really nice to get to see Canagone and spend a little bit more time. We got to see the market on a Monday.
Yep.
Which was
exactly.
Which was cool.
Yeah, down by the water, there's a long market with a lot of Sardinian-made stuff. Definitely worth a trip in on a Monday if you happen to be there.
Certainly. I think one thing I would recommend to people who are going is really look at your wind. There's so many beautiful places. We could have gone down to Tavalara,
Yep.
gone with the wind, and that was kind of on our list of we'd love to see it if we can. And I think maybe if we had done that, we'd have probably gotten a little further, a little faster. But again, it's it's all close enough to even if you have a day like that where you really are not going anywhere fast. Still great, still fun.
It was. So we hopped out of Canagone very, very early. I think maybe 7:50, 8 o'clock. We were back on the water on, I guess it'd be Tuesday.
Yep. And that was a good sailing day. We sailed up to Cala Spalmatore, which was on the northern end of La Maddalena, so not the town. But we sailed around, did yet another drive-by by Calicoticho. There were a ton of boats. We saw 2 monohulls in front of us bail on that one, so we decided to follow suit. And then Cala Spalmatore, I think that was where we called Armando, and it was shockingly easy, I feel like. They kind of said show up, afternoon, so that was an easy time frame. And then you call them, let them know you're coming in. He came, met us on the dinghy, pointed out which mooring was ours, and then you were up at the bow while I was driving. So what happened from there?
Yeah, they will hand you one of their lines first, which you'll attach to your cleat, and then you hand them one of yours. Pretty simple process. Again, €70. They'll wait and take it from you, and then you're good. I mean, there's a nice beach bar there. You can ride your dinghy and tie it up. At least 2, maybe 3 beaches. They're all kind of to get spread out. It's a really nice spot. Beautiful rocks, crystal clear water. We had a full moon, so it was a good spot to do some night swimming. And the water was just
Beautiful.
It was not cold. It was just perfect. It really was perfect.
Beautiful. It was, I think, probably my favorite place. I think.
Spalmatore is nice.
It has some good contenders.
Yeah.
But it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
You could swim from your boat all the way to any beach you wanted.
Yeah, and we did lunch at the beach bar, but they are open till about 7. So I think there was a French boat that went in and had dinner there, but the other Sunsail boat that was moored up there with us, they cooked on board like we did. Good spot.
Yeah, it was one of my favorites. So from there, the next morning, we finally braved it with Calicoticho.
Yeah.
Went in there and we were, the fifth boat, I think?
Yeah, and it gets crowded quick, so definitely I think the earlier the better for arrival.
Early or late, they say. So with Calicoticho, it's probably the most famous beach in the area. It's made Travel Channel's best beaches, top 10 list. It's a beautiful place. There are so many boats, and I think if you get there early and you can be one of the first. What was a surprise to us, I think, too, was you have some rocks to get in, but they're on the chart. That's easy, but it's very deep in there. So when you're trying to drop an anchor and you've got
5 meters plus
13 meters when we first pulled in, and you're trying to think, do I even have enough chain? So you've got to get up shallow enough.
And you don't want to drop on seagrass. They're pretty picky about that. And you can
or rocks.
Earn yourself a €50 fine for dropping on seagrass, so you definitely want to make sure you're hitting the sand. And we timed it that day because there wasn't a lot of wind, and it worked out okay. Did a quick visit there. You got to swim ashore, get some beach time, and
it was. I mean, it really is beautiful. The water is beautiful. It earns its fame, but I think go see it. Make sure you're in there at a time you feel comfortable. And if you can't get in there, you can also take a taxi from some other places that are easy to reach, like La Maddalena. And how many other places did we see that were the same gorgeous, the same water, the same beautiful, maybe less famous? So I think you can't get too disappointed if it doesn't work with a place like that, because there's so many others that are amazing.
Yeah. So speaking of La Maddalena, that was that night. So we zipped around the island. Not a lot of wind that day. You did a drive by Pink Beach. Can't get on it; it's off limits. But
how beautiful is that?
That was really pretty. Definitely understand why people used to head there. And then via Spargy, aside La Maddalena, we'll get there in a second. But as you approached, it's definitely a very busy channel for the ferries. How did you find that, Skip?
It was fine. I mean, I think we kind of were going between. That was one of the mornings we had kind of shifty wind and not a whole lot of it. So I feel like we dropped our sails a little bit earlier that day just to be able to see the traffic, because that's one thing on a monohull like we had. It's you have a few blind spots. So we did, when the wind kind of died, we were okay with dropping the sails on that one just so we could really see and prep. And that was smooth. I feel like as long as you watch for the ferries and you stay out of their way, it was fine.
Yeah.
You definitely you want to be careful. It's not the place to set autopilot and go downstairs for whatever. You want to be up there paying attention, and and as long as you do that, it was just stunningly beautiful.
Yeah, I think about Caligavetta is it's not through the ferry lane, so it's one of the first ones as you come around the west side of Maddalena. In fact, it might be the first one. Whereas there's some other ports you can go into, and you will have to pass through the ferry lanes. I think the other reason I like it, and we'll get there in a second, is just that's where all the action is.
Yeah.
For La Maddalena.
You're right in the heart of the town.
Yeah, and parking. I mean, same as Canajona. They put us in. It was pretty easy. Yeah.
It was easy. I mean, yeah, in a place that was one I was really nervous about, because there's big boats in there and big expensive boats in there, and as somebody who's new to it, it was a little nerve-wracking. But when we saw what happened, it shouldn't have been.
Yeah.
They were so helpful.
Yep.
We got the lines.
Only one slime line there,
whereas
two in Canajone.
And they don't name those inaccurately.
Yeah.
I was absolutely covered in algae after that one. So definitely don't wear your favorite dress while you grab the slime line. Don't do that. It's slimy.
Again, I think 33, 35 euros for the night for our boat. Of course, that's mid-June. You pay between 5 and 7 p.m. At the port office. It's right there by the quay. And then we got out and enjoyed the town.
Yeah, it's another one, kind of like Canajone, in the fact that it's very nautical. I feel like it's very sailor friendly. We had those. Do you remember we found the two shops that we were able to get our flags, our courtesy flags, and had a bunch of things. I have customers a lot asking, can I buy snorkel equipment or whatever, and there you most
right
certainly
there.
can, easily. And then just beautiful, the hills and the stairs and the little shopping alleys, and every single restaurant looked fantastic. Ours certainly was.
Yeah, again, I think that Strictly Sardinia blog did a
Very
top
good job.
10 restaurants in La Maddalena. So definitely a fun spot to check out. There was some parade for the Italian Navy. I think they were doing
their graduation, right?
Yeah, I think so. That was pretty cool to see. Really, kind of just a neat town, though. I'm glad we stopped there. I think it's a must stop. I would actually go back.
Oh, I would have to go back. I agree. I loved our restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't have it, and that's as we mentioned before, it's what sets Sardinia apart, I think, because you don't have a tourist trap. They're not there really.
Yeah.
In a place like that. So we saw the masks on the wall, and the masks not being COVID masks, thankfully, but the Sardinian, typical historic masks, and that was cool.
Yeah. A good night there. Then, headed out pretty early the next day too. I mean, we were up with the sun and gone with the wind. So headed back up towards Budelli did another drive by Pink Beach, and the Dead Man's Pass, that was some beautiful water. I mean,
Absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And that was one of maybe my favorite day of sailing. The winds were just 12 to 15 knots, going in the right direction. We were able to sail the entire thing, tack where we needed to, go where we needed to. It was perfect. It was just a blast.
It was, for sure. And, we stayed at Santa Maria, so Cala Santa Maria, very beautiful. When we dropped anchor between two larger yachts, just a little deeper water, just because there looked like there's some reefs. And then within 10 minutes of dropping anchor,
pow.
Yeah. Twice within 10 minutes of each other. Yeah, two boats ran aground. So definitely the charts are marked, but leave on the deep water part of that. But again, there was no bar. I think there used to be a beach bar based on the Italian Waters pilot, but there was nothing open there. So definitely a good day on board. Great sunset. And it's so close, if you were to stay in, a lot of people we saw that stayed in, the Dead Man's Passage, they would come over in the morning to, Cala Santa Maria. Now, there are bigger boats that ferry people to the beach during the day, but by, I think, 5 or 6, they were done.
They were out, yeah. And I think it was good. We got in around 4, I want to say, and it was good timing because they were leaving. The super yachts next to us were leaving, and it ended up just being a really peaceful, stress-free night. Really, I mean, I slept great on anchor that night. wasn't worried a bit.
I mean that's because even in 5 meters, put through the snorkel stuff on and flip it out there, and you could see it locked in. So it was it's amazing how clear, beautiful that water is.
It really is amazing. It's that was one that wasn't even on our list, and that's why I think it's important to be really flexible as you're going around, because you may, like we did, see something that you just feel like bag the rest of it. I have to come back here.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was that. We saw it, and we saw the white sand, and just had to do it. And man, how beautiful! I mean, the driftwood on the beach, and the powdery sand, and the clear water. It was just stunning. Yeah, stunning.
Absolutely. There's even just those northern group. There's 7 or 8 beaches that we didn't even hit. Maybe next time we can do at least a run by and try something new too. But definitely was really beautiful. And I guess finished up. Had a good day of sail the last day. Did a bit of downwind to get back into Canaggione. When we had to be back by 5. We cruised in about 3:30 or 4.
Mm-hmm. And again, they help you. If they're there, they're waiting. It's so funny because we're used to call us on the VHF, let us know when you're coming back, and they told us, we'll be watching for you, don't worry. And we're thinking, okay, well, this is.
Sure enough, they were.
They were there and ready and watched for us, and then we kind of started the charge. I feel like we had the other Sunsail boat behind us, and then everybody else was kind of in tow behind that, and it was all smooth, easy for everybody, and just a great evening that night, except for being sad it was over.
Yeah, wonderful trip.